Well, Merry Christmas, friends. I know it could be early for some or late for some, but Christmas is upon us and it's the time where we're starting to trim the tree, we're starting to decorate the tree. And if you have followed me for quite a while, or if you get my annual holiday magazine, you will know that I love Christmas. It's something I look forward to every year. And I know so many of us say that. It's, from growing up and those nostalgic memories I have of mom making Christmas so special with the decorations to my grandma who would always have amazing meals for us every holiday, but Christmas especially. I look forward to this time every year and I love to decorate. And I am someone, while I know we're used to on social media seeing brand new all the time, I don't do that. I do my favorite things every year because that to me is what Christmas is about. It's about our favorite collections, those mementos that mean something to us. Or just things that if you've created a tree you love, I don't want to switch it out every year. So some of you could have seen a version of this tree already. Some of you may never have. So this is my dining room tree and it is all about my antique Kugel collection. Now, if you don't know what a Kugel is, I'm going to show you. And I'm going to show you really what this is like when I'm getting tubs out. This isn't just about the pretty. This isn't just about throwing an ornament at the tree and all at once it being done. I want to take you through it, show you what I'm thinking, what my process is, and how I do this year to year when I save the things I love and I use them. So Kugels are one of the oldest Christmas ornaments. They're German from the 1800s, very heavy glass, usually mercury glass, and they come in all sizes. They can come in different shapes, but the rare shapes get pretty expensive. So I'm going to show you how I store them and how I'm going to unpack them and what we're working with behind me. So my dining room is directly with my kitchen. It's an open doorway. And so you view into this all the time. So when I'm having people over, the tree is right here. I have one in my living room too, which you can just see peeking out right there, and one here in the dining room. So they don't compete with each other color-wise, and that's why I really like it. So this year I have the tree in an antique copper boiler for a wash tub. It's beautiful. It actually has a brass spigot here on the other side. I'll try to show you. If you look down here, I kind of hid it back there. Beautiful little spigot to let the water out. But what I love about it is I don't have to do anything other than set the original stand that came with the tree inside of it. So other years I've used an antique urn that I had a stand made for. I like that, but I wasn't ready to bring that in from outside. And when I found this year, I like the patina, I like the copper tone that's gonna go really well with the Kugels. I also keep on it a metal oak leaf garland. I just like that it's gold, it's metal, so it doesn't really wear poorly. It actually keeps really well year to year. And this is, I think it was called a silver tip fir faux tree when I bought it a few years ago. What I like about it is it has a lot of open branching to it, which I think looks really good. And you can fit kind of nice sized, larger items on it. Behind me are the Kugels. So I put these in plastic tubs and I don't do too deep a tub because I don't want the weight of them to kind of harm one another. And I put lots of, bubble wrap in between them. Now, you can see the sizing can be difficult. So I try to separate them somewhat by size, but then I also put smaller ones on top. So when you're looking at Kugels, the important thing to know is you can find a lot of fake Kugels. And the way I can always, to me, best easily tell is to look at the top, to look at that cap that's on it. You want it to be flush with the Kugel itself. Sometimes it'll be a little loose and you can see into the Kugel. I'm sure I'll find one eventually that you can. But you want them to be flush. You don't want them to have a neck on them. Usually that's the newer ones that are gonna have a neck. Like I have a newer one here, and if you look underneath this, you see me on the camera here, but you see that there's a cap underneath this, and it's just made to look old. It's not actually old. So that's a big way. And then over the years, there are even some that Midwest Kugel was a company that made some for a while. They're not old, but they are kind of becoming collectible. They're really pretty too, but the original Kugels are going to be more expensive usually, or more rare to find. So slowly over time, I've been collecting these, and I love the colors together. I love the age of them. I love how some of them patina and have like wear marks, which this is wear from the cap itself. You can see that piece inside that holds the cap on. So with these, I always use some different candlesticks. Usually it's all these old glass candlesticks. But what I love is this year I'm adding in these battery operated ones. So you can have them on a 6-hour timer, which I really like. I'm actually excited because then they have that old look. See, look how beautiful those are. And then they just have a little flicker to them. So I'm gonna turn them off for now. But then they can go on for 6 hours, go off. They have one AAA battery. They should last quite a while if I keep them on at a minimum. I'm hopefully I'm hoping 30 days usually on them. So what I'm gonna do is start unpacking some of these. starting with the largest ones, because I always start with anything that's largest on a Christmas tree, because those are the things I want to put in to those larger holes of a tree where there's a big opening. I always think that makes a big difference, is when you have a big opening, that's how you cover it up. And that's why I picked this faux tree, is because it had big open branching, so I could use large ornaments or different pieces on it, and it would always have space for them. So I'm finishing up on some of these larger ones I have. And these I always try to also take the shapes, but also the color that they are, and distribute them a little bit more evenly. What's fun about these, now obviously these are all mirroring, so you're gonna see reflections in them, but then they bounce around light really well. Now, Kugels are usually what most of our ornaments now are based off of. So you can find a lot of new ornaments that have this style, where they're gonna have a heavy cap to them, maybe heavy glass. That's what these are, they're mimicking these right here, which I think is so fun to have something that's more of like an original Christmas ornament from a long time ago. Now what you're gonna notice, I'm not using ribbons to hang these, and I know a lot of people love ribbon. I like ribbon too, but what I find if I use ribbon on certain trees like this, when they have a small cap like this, the ribbon starts to become overpowering when I put so many ornaments on a tree. So for this, I'm using the old style. You can actually see them here, just those little hooks. And those hooks to me recede once they're on the tree and allow the ornament to actually stick out and stand out. So what I'm doing is making sure that the ornament itself is what's on display and not some type of beautiful ribbon, which if you looked at my mom's dining room tree this year, we have ribbon actually tied in bows somewhat on the tree. There's a time and a place for that. I just think with these, I really just want to show them off as is. Now that I have the largest size on, I'm gonna move down to the next smaller size, which is probably more about a 4 or 5 inch size ornament itself. Now, I do have these somewhat broken up into sizes in their containers. So I'm just gonna go through, I'm gonna like maybe even speed this video up a little bit so you can just see going around, placing it around and making sure they're on. Now this tree is pre-lit, so I don't have to worry about the lighting. It is a tree that has that tiny LED light. We'll focus in on that here in a little bit so you can see how tiny it is. Again, I used to not like pre-lit trees, but with LED now I find a lot of them have a long life to them, because there are quite a few trees, like the one in my TV room, I cut out all the original lights on it when they went out because I liked the tree and strung my own. So when they now have that warm color LED, and I really like that. So I'm gonna set the camera up, I'm gonna go through and just put most of these ornaments on. I have most of the large to medium size beautiful ornaments all over the tree. Now what you did notice is I probably stepped away from the tree, and that's what I'm trying to overall see. Are the colors being interspersed correctly? Is any one area becoming a hot spot for one color? I know these things sound weird, but it's like when you quickly do a tree, if you don't think about those little things, you'll end up stepping away and saying like, oh, I only see red in one spot, or I only see, in this case, silver or green. And so you want to be able to distribute them somewhat evenly. As I step even further away, you can see going up and down the tree, it's looking fairly even. Now right up in here from this video I'm seeing, there's a little bit of green right there that might be too much, where I could add in a little bit more color. And so that's where it leaves me with some of the final things, which is, I call it the extras, maybe the extra special things, maybe the things that you want to see more, but it's the things you put on the outside of the tree. So when I'm putting a tree together, I always think, I first put up the tree and I fluff it. So that just means I make it look a little bit more open, broad, because it gets smashed after being stored for a year. I store all my trees in tree bags and hang them in my garage because they can be high enough that they just hang up by the ceiling. And then I get the tree bags out, open them up, get them out, fluff them. Now for things like this, I always have heavy garlands on first. After I fluff the tree, I have the garland on. Now if it's a beaded light garland that goes at the end of the tree on the tips, that obviously you put on last. But anything like this that's heavier, it goes in first because I don't want to have any ornaments falling or breaking as I'm putting it on. At the end, what I do is the extras. So for me, that's going to be all of these glass and battery operated candles, because I want them to be towards the outside of the tree where you actually would have had them. And then some kind of more extra special Kugels that I love. So the grape pattern or the grape form is a little bit harder to find. So I will put those more towards the out because I only have a few. I did the same with this deep red egg-shaped one. one of my favorites, so I made sure I had it out here. Also, the red color can be harder to find, so I don't have as many of those. So the last ones here I'm gonna put up are my favorites. I'll show you as I'm putting them up. So when I put up some of my favorites, like this grape form, I try to look where I'm gonna notice it or where it's gonna be able to hang best. So for me, it's gonna be on the outside. Now notice again, it's just those wire. Now I will say, I scour eBay and thrift shops for old wire hooks. The new ones are flimsy and would not hold the weight of these type of ornaments that well, but the old ones do. Now what I do, if you noticed, I bent that branch up a little bit because that counteracts the weight of a heavy ornament. And then I make sure that's a sturdy branch. So usually faux trees are put together with a little bit more flimsy branches on the very, very tip, but then as you get in, you'll find more wire. So I look for one that has a good wire, so it's gonna hold the weight of that ornament, and I step back and make sure it looks right. I grew up with my mom's mom, my grandma, on that side. She was very particular about how she put a tree together. And she always wanted to make sure nothing felt like it was resting where it shouldn't be. So an ornament wasn't sitting if it didn't feel like it should. So for a bauble or a ball style ornament like this, I don't feel like they should rest on the branch below. If they graze it, that's okay, but notice I have a little bit of space always hanging. And that's what I want. I want them to have space because they should look like they're hung, just suspended in air. So I'll go back over here and then look for like this green one. I only have one, and I really like that. So I want to put that in a spot. Now, I mentioned I had too much green up there, so I don't want to put it there. I want to put it in a spot like maybe over here, where, now I will say too, these are going in front of French doors. During the winter, these French doors do not get used. And I just make sure during the Christmas season, these are not getting used. So that's why it's here, and I don't worry about that. See how perfect that looks? So I have a few more things that we'll put on. Obviously, all of these candle style glass ones, they're so simple. So these are actually new ones I bought a few years ago from John Darien. Beautiful shop in New York, beautiful shop online. They're more investment ones, but they're from old factories that still make the ornaments today, which I love. And what I like is you can hang them very just gently they're very lightweight. So you can put them at the end of a branch, make sure it looks straight up and down because that's what a candle would be. And it kind of just finishes it off and adds this extra special touch. It's kind of to me like adding an icicle to a tree, just this little thing on the edge. See how nice that looks? So I'm gonna put on a whole bunch more of these. I'll talk about the star I'm using this year because it's gonna be different, and we'll see it all done. I have all those candles interspersed. I have a few more I could put on. Every year I edit though. Like, I'm not gonna get rid of these, but I may not put them all on, and I think that's okay. I'm not a trained designer by any means. I think the hardest thing, but also the most fulfilling and best looking thing, is to know when to edit, and that's on a Christmas tree too, when maybe not to add more, because I have a tendency just to keep adding. So I force myself to not. I have some of the ornaments here that maybe I'll just put in a bowl. Maybe I'll put in a canister on my kitchen table. I like to be able, if I can, so a tree feels cohesive with the area, to use the same type of things, like the ornaments, in another way. Sometimes I put them in a garland down a table. Sometimes I just put them in a bowl in that room or in the room adjoining to it. So it feels like those spaces go together. Now this year, usually I had a large paper mache, kind of antique looking but new gold star I put on there. I was flea marketing this year. And I found what I think is just an old homemade tree topper. Now the person said it was a weather vane topper. I don't think it is. I think the way it's made, well, maybe it was, because it does look rusty like it was outside. But it's so perfect for the top of a tree. And what I like about it is the age and the patina on it. It kind of matches these Kugels. So you can imagine that someone would have, at one time, probably made it, and maybe made it for a tree, so they could have a star that went properly with it. I mean, look how perfect that is. And I like that it's three-sided, because it's like three stars almost put together. So from all angles, you see the star. I love that. And then for the candles on it, since they're on a remote, you can turn them on, and I'm going all around to make sure I get them all, because if it doesn't, I can then put them on a 6-hour timer, which, is that not wonderful? So they'll be on for 6 hours and then go off. I think that's amazing. So what I love about these, my same grandma I was talking about, Grandma Conrad, she would always tell a story of when she was growing up and really young at home. There were not Christmas lights yet. There wasn't any electricity where they lived at that point. She remembers her grandpa standing by the tree on Christmas Eve. They would light the candles and he would stand there, and as the candles got low, he would quick snuff them out so they didn't start anything on fire. Well, what's nice is you can have the same idea with these. The original way people lit a tree, probably at the time when these ornaments were being used, and yet you don't have to worry about that. They're just on and then they go off. So I'm gonna show you another thing I'm gonna use in this room and how I get to go together, but this is the tree, kind of in all its glory. Now, I will admit, I'm also someone that just keeps fluffing with it, so we'll talk about that. So this year when I'm filming Christmas, I'm really trying to do it much more casual and candidly of, I'm just getting stuff out. I want you to see how it is, how the tubs come out, because that's how it's stored. That's how I bring it back out. So in this dining room is where we're at, the tree behind us. What I do is some more minimal touches, and one of them is right behind me on the hutch itself. And I want to show you some of the pieces I use. So I collect antique mercury glass, and usually I use it mostly around Christmas because I think the coloring goes well. You can use it anytime. It's not that you have to use it at Christmas. And I'll show you the pieces, but they go so well with the Kugel. They're around the same age, a lot of them. So that's one reason. But some of the forms are just really fun to use kind of together, whether it's down the table or like behind me on the hutch. So I'll show you what they are and how I kind of use them. Again, just a tub, but this is antique mercury glass. Now these two candlesticks I got last year when I was visiting my sister in Virginia at a shop, which I think they are so fun. It's fun to find pairs of things. So if you can already tell. So mercury glass is blown, hand blown, so you'll see the cut mark on the bottom always. And it's very delicate, so that's why it can be hard to find things. One of the things I love to look for, and they're very hard to find, but it's antique butler's balls. So these are called butler's balls because you would put them on a buffet, usually on the side of the dining room when you had a butler. I know, like, that seems not normal. But you would put these and the butler could stand towards the buffet working on something, but see through the ball behind him, the table, and be watching if people needed anything. Now I think they're just fun because they almost act as a bauble. So another piece I added this year was this beautiful pedestal plate, which I think is nice. So sometimes I'll use pewter pieces with this. This is just pewter, but it has kind of that nice patina. But these pieces I will get out and I will use around here. And then I have a couple Kugels, which I'll show you, that do not have any tops. So when I bought them, they had none of those caps on them. So I use these upside down almost like a butler's ball would be. So I'm gonna set a few pieces up so I can show you kind of how I use them. I really enjoy these, but I think this is trying to show that we should use the things we collect, use the things we enjoy, and find uses for them at different times of the year so we can appreciate them, because there's no point keeping them stuffed in a closet. I have a few of the things unpacked. Now, it's still way too early to do certain things I'm gonna do here for Christmas. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll set a display of them up, and then when it gets closer to Christmas, I'll use either fresh cut greens or some type of faux green. And I'll start lining it around here so it feels more seasonal. But you can see those Kugels act as kind of a butler's ball in itself, but more just also decorative orbs that look really good with this. This could also be used really well down the center of a table. You know, you could fill this with nuts and fruit and use that kind of as a centerpiece. It's one of my favorite ways to kind of use a collection because it goes really well then as I back up. You're gonna see all the jugs I just pulled from there. That's what was sitting there. I might use these two candlesticks on the table itself here over the season, but as you back up and see it with the tree, they just go together. So I just try to find things that I think mix well, things that can work well with other things in the room and pull them out. Now I am noticing here this one. See, this is what you have to watch. Make sure that they're on there correctly so they look correct. So if I back up, you're gonna see the tree in all of its glory. I love this tree. You're gonna see how this is gonna look eventually, and I'm gonna finish it up some other time, so check back on stories, or I'll do a Christmas tour eventually too, and you'll be able to see all that. But it's a really fun mix of all my favorite things that are special to me, things that I enjoy. So when my family is over, when everyone's together, when my friends are over, when I'm entertaining, you know, everything has a story and everything works well. This season, I will keep bringing you along. I'm gonna be posting videos about getting things out. It's never gonna be a complete beginning to end because it's always in process. We're always finishing up, aren't we? We're always zhuzhing around the holidays, especially things like this. That will keep changing. I'll probably change up the table too yet. But it's showing the process of getting things out. It's not always pretty. There's some nitty gritty with it. There's a little bit of dirt, and that's all the fun. So all this gets stored in my basement. Yeah, a lot of tubs stacked, but it works really well. So I'll keep bringing you along, hopefully find some inspiration along the way, some excitement. And if you're looking for food inspiration too, always check out wyseguide.com, my website, where all my recipes live for the holidays and all year round.